recording. Well, so this is episode. Okay, so season 2, episode 1. I feel like I feel like we're. It's just life. I don't know if it was the end of 2022 or what, but I feel like I can't get out of this the deep end of this pool or whatever's going on. Usually the New Year feels good, man. I feel like shit on New Year. Excuse my language.
I'm the same way.
I don't do hot, and my wife was like kind of upset with me for not feeling good, and I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. Let me just go to my dopamine stores that I keep in my closet and grab some dopamine for the new year.
Right. So you don't mean mentally. You don't mean physically, rather. You mean mentally.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I've been working my. I always feel. Here's the thing, guys. I I vent to Doc when we do chat personally. I vent about work all the time. But when I vent about work, it's like, oh, builds didn't work. I'm working late hours. Something's going on. Blah blah blah. Doc's like, I had like 3 stroke patients and a baby die in my arms, and I'm like, how? I can't vent. I feel bad. Being like, I had a bad day at work.
You know what? Everybody's allowed to vent. Everybody's day is difficult for themselves. People don't know your life. I don't know other people's life, but
Right.
it's like just the day-to-day struggle. I've been having like a really hard time too, and I don't know why. It's just like it's
Seasonal.
fatigue, weird hours recently. Working. In fact, I worked overnight last night into this morning. Slept like 3 hours. Got up, and you only have like one day to get all your crap done that you have to get done,
Right.
and then
Back
I'm
to work.
on for like the next 4 days. So I'm like working the next 4 days after today. So
It's just crazy.
I'm glad we're doing this now because my empathy is just gonna go.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, I wish I had been, and I've said this in the past. I wish I'd have been a better human being in school because I think I would have loved to be an ER doctor. I don't think I'd be as nearly as good as you are and some of the doctors I met, but I think after the military, I think I would have been successful in the rush. I've gotten so soft these days that if I would have done that from the start, I would have kept it and probably would have went into it pretty well, but
Did
yeah,
you see
no,
a lot of bad trauma in your time overseas?
yeah, I mean, it's hard. So like when I got home, I definitely had a couple buddies that went before me and after me. And I would say that I was in the middle between severe and nothing, guys who didn't do anything but sit in air conditioning all day. And then, Vietnam vets, I'd say I was somewhere in the middle. I was sent to Kandahar and Herat, Afghanistan, right at the beginning of the fighting season in 2000 and the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. So
Right.
there was a lot of stuff going on. The part that made my trauma, or I guess, chaoticness, is that my job was route clearance. So our purpose is to find, make sure the routes are clear for supply convoys, things like that. And you're basically driving out into harm's way. And believe it or not, we had our fair share of IEDs and things like that, but they watch those and they like to shoot at you when you're digging up their hard work. So, but you know what? I can't, like, I've met a couple guys that in different places, Vietnam vets or Desert Storm vets who, like, I couldn't put a candle to, you know what I mean? I wasn't
Right.
like carrying friends out and, washing the back of Humvees, stuff like that. Some of the more dramatic stuff, but I think nonetheless, it's traumatic in its own way. I'm definitely afraid of airports now. I sweat in crowds. So
How long were you out?
I did a little less than 12 months. I was supposed to be there for a whole year, and then it looked like it was going to be 14, which is very long and very rare. You normally don't do 14 months. And then we ended up having a couple guys get hurt, and because we were so like I was in the 555th, and we got sent out. Our 37th engineering, we got sent out and attached to somebody else because they had lost dudes, and we were filling in, basically coming in to relieve. And so then when we had issues, then somebody came in and relieved us. So I ended up I would say, oh God, maybe in total 11 months, 10 months and some change. I would say 11. 11 sounds about right. So it might have been a full year. I don't remember. After a while, it's just like one big camping trip.
But it changed you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had some trauma from my childhood. Growing up, dealing with some of that stuff. A lot of drugs in my family. Especially my dad. My mom had more of a dance with Jack Daniels. But it's so severe in some scenarios, however that may be. But the Army, Yeah, it's a different type, like you I think the thing that people kind of misconstrue about PTSD, and I'm sure maybe in some cases with shell shock or World War I vets where like somebody drops a pot and all of a sudden you're digging a foxhole. It's more like you're not naive to the realities of life anymore. And because your brain has seen certain things or you've been exposed to certain things, now you're overly aware of everything and you're always assuming the worst is going to happen all the time,
Right.
24/7. And that's where like big crowds are problematic and airports and crazy and noise and all that kind of stuff that people just kind of tune out. When you have that hypervigilance, you don't tune it out. You're absorbing it all. And people don't realize, but the brain is like a computer. It just gets overloaded. And rather than freezing, our brain gets ornery and you get stressed and anxious. And then some guys can't handle it. Some guys like freak out and have to get out of whatever's causing it, but
Right.
You learn to manage. I would say that on the bright side, I would say I prefer being less ignorant. I don't want to feel crappy all the time because now you kind of have a perpetual anxiety, but I prefer having the hypervigilance because I feel safer constantly aware than somebody like some of my friends and stuff who've never really had something like that happen. And they're so like oblivious, like, hey man, we're in a bad part of town. Didn't even cross their mind. To me, I'm thinking there's nobody walking around. We're the only people on the street in a mile, radius, there's abandoned buildings. This is not a great place for us to be walking.
Target.
Right. We're in the open, it's minimal light. They don't see that. I see that. And I don't want to sound like, Chris Kyle, because I'm not, but that's the kind of stuff that hypervigilance gives you,
People are also just used to their security and freedom.
That's what rocks
you. Walk around and it doesn't even bother them.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Other countries are not so lucky.
I think people take advantage of remember being a kid and you like test the law. You would do shit that was clearly illegal because you thought you were invincible. If humans, you watch stuff on TV, you watch horrible things like, oh, that'll never happen to me. And I think some of post-traumatic stress is now you go, that can and should and possibly will happen to me. And you know what I mean? And that's the difference. And so now, you're a little more weirded out by the world. It's a darker place. And it's funny because and I don't mean to drone on, but my wife, she's so oblivious to those things. We were in Florida, and I think I've told the story before, but we're in Florida in some backwater town next to Fort Myers, which by no means North Fort Myers is not a great place. And there's it's got to be 3 a.m. There's a bunch of people, and I forget, we were coming back from dinner or I don't know what we were doing, but we stopped at this gas station. It's like these people out there. My wife's like, oh, wow, there's like people hanging out. I'm like, babe, they're crackheads. Those guys are enjoying that free soda, that free 99 soda they get at this gas station here. And she's like, I couldn't imagine this area. I'm like, babe, this whole area is known for drug problems. We're like, where are you? What rock do you live under? Yeah. Well, I want to say something real quick to the guys. If you're a vet who's watching this, I just want to say that drugs and alcohol are fun in moments, but don't use them as a consistent vice. It's okay to feel good every once in a while. It's not realistic to feel good all the time. You got to learn to be in your skin. I just want to say that because I think we all struggle with it and it's easy to go down that route. What do they call that? You're in the medical field, self-medicating. It's not great, in certain moments it's sure.
It's anti-anxiety. It's like people who just want to like break away from the reality. And, it's a short-term fix for a long-term problem. And there's not a day that doesn't go by in the ED that I don't get at least one person who kind of fits that bill. Right. And that just goes to show how big of a problem that is in the world. And there's not a lot of resources for people like that too, because, unfortunately the business of medicine says there's not a lot of money in that. At least that's the way it kind of seems, nationally, not just like where I'm at, but nationally. So it's just a substance use disorder is a real problem. And if it was easy to quit, no one would do it. And
it's easy.
Everybody starts off for a certain reason, and I could stop whenever I'd want, and then all of a sudden it gets you, and then you're like you are at mercy to that. And that's what sucks.
You got to be strong. And I don't want to go dive into deep, but I know a couple of my buddies. I had when I got back, my big thing was like pain pills for a while. A buddy of mine, Donovan, he did mixed martial arts with me. He gave me some because he had broken his femur. And he had a mass collection of them and he sold them for cheap because they made him nauseous. And I remember taking them and being like, holy cow, I don't feel bad. I feel good. Everything's fine. I can focus. And then, 1 becomes 5 real quick. And then 5 becomes 10. And then, all of a sudden you're, Never, thankfully, not got worse than that. And I quit cold turkey. Nicotine, not now, but I at one point have cold turkeyed all substances, and it's never easy.
Yeah.
So don't put yourself through that. Find other means, find other hobbies, jump out of planes if you need to. Tarkov gives adrenaline, which is why I play it.
That's
And
why
we'll
we
go
all
to
play
that.
it, right?
Yeah.
It's
So,
just
but
it's like how do you get your aggressions, how do you get your frustration out on the world without going to jail?
yeah, I
Tarkov
know
is a good way for
exactly.
that.
Well, and I don't want to poo-poo people who enjoy drinking or smoking or whatever substance you do. Just responsibly, make it far and
Yeah.
few, and make it, just like drinking, it should be, for certain occasions, and leave it at that. So
I've been pretty lucky, and I just do not have a there's a genetic component to addiction.
okay,
There's a mental component to addiction. But I've never had it's never had a grip on me. I've gambled. I've won thousands of dollars in gambling. I never felt like I can do this again, or I gotta win back what I lost, or I've never, like, I've always like, all right, listen, this is like stupid, no more. Same thing with alcohol. Like, you have a good time. Every night, the missus and I will go out to the hot tub. We'll have a little glass of rye, a little
right.
glass of bourbon or something, unwind, talk about our day.
Take the edge off.
It's never been, yeah, it takes a little bit of the edge off, but it's never been something. And
Right.
knock on wood, it's never been something that's really gripped me. But some people, man, it's
Oh yeah. Oh, for
it's
sure.
hard.
I mean, I would say, what's really funny is, I think, I was diagnosed with ADHD a little over a year ago, maybe. And it was so taboo to me because I'm one of the few people. So before I met my wife, I didn't believe in mental illness. I was told I had an anxiety
Right.
problem growing up. I just thought that's how people were. When I got back from overseas and I was angry all the time and didn't feel good, I was like, this is just how men are supposed to feel. And, you learn to live with it. And, it's interesting when you learn against that. But I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it's funny because I reflecting back on it, things like, I had some cocaine usage in my younger years. Well, some is a light way to put it, but I realized that the reason why I never was affected like my friends who would get overconfident and talking a mile an hour and have jittery
Mhm.
jaw, where I felt focused, was such a huge red flag for something like ADHD, which now people are starting to realize comes from trauma. There's a diagnosis now where, because so mine is like ADHD, onset ADHD from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is basically like your brain doesn't produce dopamine for whatever reason. I mean, this is where like I'm just a Wikipedia doctor, armchair doctor, or whatever they say.
Right.
But so if you're having those issues, guys, please go out and talk to it. And the other advice I want to give is keep a journal. If you go to a doctor and you're getting medications, and I'm not trying to talk against doctor, if you go to a doctor medications, keep a journal, write your feelings down, because I had many of the most 75% of the medications I took made me feel ways I was not ready for.
Yeah.
And it's best to have that stuff written down so you can reflect against it and then work with
Absolutely.
your doctor to make the right
And,
changes.
and
So,
it's funny. It's like, just think about, like, you watch TV shows. I mean, you read papers. I mean, just think about how many different type of behavioral health medications, not even behavioral health, like blood pressure medicines, cholesterol medicines. There's a ton of them. It's because not everyone works for everybody the same way. So,
right.
if you're having reactions, it's not making you feel the way you want to feel, or it's creating an unwanted side effect. I mean, write that stuff down, talk to your doctor. Depending on the time frame, you can tell whether or not maybe it's due to the medication or maybe due to something else.
Right.
But it's like, don't give up on it. Not to say that medical therapy is the only way to do it. I mean, just
It's a
therapy, just like talking to a therapist is cathartic. Finding other vices in life, like Damo and I like do gaming and stuff like that. This is the way we kind
My
of like
motorcycle.
unplug,
Yeah.
the Ducati.
Yeah. Well, yeah, make sure you know your medications, and be aware. Like, I took a drug called buspirone for a while that I swear put me on the brink of psychosis. And it was supposed to be for anti-anxiety, but all of a sudden my truck had got broken into, and I had this notion in my mind that they were going to come back and try to harm me because I stopped them at gunpoint from stealing my truck.
Wow.
And for like a week, I stayed every night. I would stay up to like 3 or 4 in the morning until the light would start to come out. I would sit in my office and stare out the window. It's super crazy. It freaked my wife out, so
Right.
much so that she like called my mom, and they hate each other. So, so just be careful about it. And another thing too is you're never going to feel euphoric on these medications. These medications aren't here to like immediately somehow fix all the problems. They are a foundation for you to then use other techniques, mental techniques to work through your stuff. And I hate to say it, but some of it's just getting tough skin. You just learn to be comfortable in your skin. You're going to feel like shit. And that's okay. Take a
Right.
day, lay on the floor. I do that all the time. I don't know how many times I lay on the floor when I don't feel good.
Did you do that? You told me that, I think, on the other podcast after you moved. I think
Oh,
you just
yeah.
like laid on
Yeah.
the floor and you had
Yeah.
like a glass of whiskey and you just
I
like
did.
sat on the floor and
I
that was it.
did. I lay on the floor. It's grounding in a weird way, you know? It's like something about the body, like when you on a hard surface and everything can just relax, the body kind of levels out. I don't explain it.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's like childlike in nature, but it's always been a thing for me. But and even those can be addicted too, man. The motorcycle, since I haven't been able to ride it in months, I have been absurdly depressed. Probably the most depressed I've been in a while because I've been able to get on that bike. And it in a weird way, it's its own addiction, withdrawing from
Right.
a machine, you know.
What's your weather like right now in Colorado?
Cold. It's cold. We're starting to warm up a little bit though. We had a pipe burst, so we just had a cold snap a couple weeks ago, and yeah,
In
I
your
wasn't
in
here
your
for
own
that.
in your own built in your own
Yeah,
own
thankfully-
apartment or in the building or like how many
in
people
my
were affected?
apartment. So the way my apartment works is like it's two stories. So there's like a garage, like a huge 1-car garage that's the length of two garages easily in length. Then the apartment or the condo sits on top of that. When you come to the front door, so here's like the garage, here's the front door. When you come in, there's like a little entryway, and then
Right.
there's stairs that go straight up. Right above that entryway, there was a fire suppression line that froze, and it flooded the garage, it flooded the front area, it flooded the neighbor's apartment, and nobody knew about it. Neighbors are gone, and I was gone, and the fire department's the one. They had an alert hit their system saying, hey, the system is dumping a lot of water, hence a fire that they're not getting signaled for.
Wow.
So they're the ones that came out and ended up turning it off. But yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it did a ton of damage down there. And at first I was like, oh no, like I didn't drip a line somewhere, but I can't drip a fire suppression line. That it ended up being,
Yeah.
they found a leak in the upper window or something that's leaking in. And, but yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
geez.
like it soaked a couple $1,000 in Ducati parts. And I was super freaked out because I was like, oh, you know, I don't know what renter's insurance will do for that. Thankfully, my dumb ass leaves them all in the plastic, wrapped in other plastic. So when I pulled them out, everything was drier and
Oh,
was
nice.
dry. Yeah,
Score.
we got saved. We got saved. Nothing got actual damage. The neighbors took the brunt of it, and I feel guilty. It's not my fault, but I have some weird underlying guilt that their stuff.
Yeah, because
got-
it was in your actual like enclosed space.
yeah, you know, like nothing I
Yeah,
could do.
yeah.
But they have a floor heater down there, but I guess it was broken and it's not tied in. And it was sucked, and I had just left, and I was freaking out by the cats. So I was like, I can't imagine being a cat, and all of a sudden you're like, patink, and then just tens of thousands of gallons of water a minute are
Wow.
flooding out of your ceiling into, you know, yeah.
How long ago was that? You know, it's what,
that was the
10th
day
now.
before Christmas.
Oh,
It happened
nice.
Saturday.
gift.
Yeah. I didn't want to. I hate traveling. My wife's family makes me. They make is a strong word. I could say no, but you're still an asshole, right? You know how
Right.
that works in married life.
Yeah, persuasive.
Voluntold.
Right?
And,
Yeah, there you go.
and I did not want to travel. I had my flight got delayed at 2 a.m. the first one, so I ended up going home and like got up the next morning and left. And like the day after I left, it popped. And I was like, I don't even want to be here. I was looking at flights coming back, but they were like $900. There was one on Southwest, but I wasn't gonna fucking gamble that
Yeah.
shit show. So
You're lucky it didn't.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm thankful where it popped. If anything, the bright side is it popped in an entryway and flooded some stuff in a garage. My Ducati mat was wet, but my bike's on stands, so it never got high enough
So
to
you're
even
all right.
touch the tires. Yeah, everything.
That's
I mean,
great.
we really got lucky there. The poor neighbors, but they were out of town too, and apparently their damage is minuscule. But I don't know.
That's good.
You know, we were talking earlier, and I hate to be the only one talking, guys. I'm sorry, but
That's all right.
last podcast we were talking about how the frustrations of how when a company doesn't come to their terms or meet their agreements, it's whatever, we just kind of take it. But if we don't meet them, all of a sudden you're litigated, you got fines, you got collectors. They had to run two industrial blowers and industrial dehumidifier in our entryway.
Right.
And I'm starting to see the spike in our power bill. And I don't know if I should go to the apartment complex, who's been very lenient with us because I forgot to pay our rent the second month we were here.
Oh,
It didn't
never
auto
do that.
pay. And I got a 10-day notice. I was like, oh shit. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm never late to rent, you know? And of course, like for me, I take that personal. So like I called them and apologized, you know, came in hand and said, I'm so sorry, you know? But I don't know if I should email them like, hey, listen, we ran two industrial blowers and an industrial dehumidifier for a pipe that was your fault for breaking. why am I on charge for how many hundreds of dollars in electrical costs now? Like, do you do that, or is that kind of still a dick move? You know, especially for somebody so lenient for us who the second month in didn't pay our rent 10
Yeah.
days late. You
Yeah, I
know,
get it. I don't know the answer to that. I've never had that problem. I mean, I've had a pipe freeze and in my old condo too, but it didn't burst. But it didn't have a big electrical bill or a lot of utilities for me. So I see your point. I mean, it's not your fault, but it's not
had it been like
necessarily
11 days.
it's not
11
necessarily the
days.
fault of them either. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah, but I mean,
oh, do you want to put it through to insurance or no? What's
that's
that?
right. That's the point of renting, though. It's like your job is
Yeah.
to take and handle all of these things. I don't get any net return. I just give you thousands of dollars a month. I guess for my concern is it wasn't a couple of days. It was like 10, 11, maybe 12 days, 24/7, two industrial
Wow.
blowers, industrial humidifier, because they were trying to dry everything out without having to replace everything, which
Did you
I
get your
also I
electrical bill?
respect. I saw no, I well, so December was like, hey, no problem, no problem. At the end, it was just like boom, but it happened at the end of December, so it's only like $20 more. But $20 for 4 days in December, a difference. I can only imagine what January is gonna look like. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm the kind of guy who like dad angers. I'm like, what do we live in? What is this? The sun? I'm like slamming lights off to the house. You know, so
I think
um,
that it would depend on how much, it's like, risk versus it's cost versus reward. Like
right,
if it's a couple dollars, like I'm not going to go through the you know, the difficulty of that. But if it's a lot of money, like I might open my mouth and say, "Hey,
right. I
this is
figured it was
this
over
is my
150
financial
bucks.
responsibility."
I figure it was over 150 bucks. I might say something because it's like, when we were 10 days late, we had to pay, $3 in fees. And like totally understandable. We failed to meet our contract. Thankfully, they didn't throw us out. I've never really missed rent before, so I don't know what that looks like. A lot of my
Right.
friends who were like not as appropriate, they were like, it happens, man. Don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, no, it doesn't happen though, dude. I hate to say it,
Right.
Uh, but I don't know. Anyways, it's weird. Another one of those weird kind of moments in adulthood. You're like, hey, do I want to write? Her name's Haley. She's wonderful. The office girls are so nice. But like,
Right.
hey, you guys ran industrial stuff on my wall outlet for a pipe that you're responsible for a heater that was broken that you didn't see in your 120-point check. Why am I paying the majority of this bill here? Hi, Luna.
So I'm just gonna slide this bill right under your door here, and you
Yeah,
can feel free to like just take that off the rent, or you could just
right.
pay it and let me know how it goes.
Well, the guy that came out to do the first investigation, he was like, he's like, do you want me to give you all the broken pieces? That way they can't charge you. I'm like, what? Why? He's like, I don't want them charging. It's their fault. Like the guy they brought in, the contractor, he like sent me pictures of it and like a video of him making comments. And I was like, and the maintenance guy came and he's like, no, we know this is our, like the maintenance guy owned up to it. Who they're also fantastic.
Yeah.
So shout out to our management. I'm not going to say who they are, but they've been the best I worked for, the best I've lived under. So that's one of the things was like, is it really worth being a dickhead?
Right.
So
It paints it puts you like, I always talk to
and a Karen
my
light,
wife. I talk to my wife that like every time she goes to black and white, like they really have a photo of her in the back office. She's like, customer of the year. Like you don't want to be known in a negative way to
My
your
wife's
people.
like that too.
I don't know. It's funny. There's interesting. I've been watching on TikTok, and you get into that TikTok, like the rabbit hole, and
Right, I love TikTok.
for
Addiction.
some reason I got this video about this guy, and he lives in, is it Jupiter, Florida? No,
What a
I think
name
it's
of a
somewhere.
city.
Yeah, he lives in a place, Babylon something, and
That
if
sounds like Florida.
if you Google it, you'll probably find him. But this guy,
Look
like,
that up,
so
Jamie.
you tell me what you think of this. This guy, he's a lineman, right? So he's not like a multimillionaire. He builds. He takes out money out of his retirement. He borrows off his retirement. He puts like all of his savings, and he builds like the house of his dreams on the water, right?
Okay.
So he goes through. He hires a contractor. And I don't know the whole story, so you may have like questions about it that I don't know the answers to.
Okay.
But basically, the bottom line is this Babylon village has to, send their
New York, Babylon, New York, maybe.
is it maybe? Yeah,
Okay.
they have to send their building inspector
Okay.
to look at the construction, right? The guy inspector completely signs off on everything. Finally, like some other guy comes and looks at him and notices like this house is built so poorly. It's built so unsafe that it's got to be condemned,
Oh,
and it's not
oh
finished
shit.
yet. Like it's there's stuff holding up the center beams in the basement on like, you know, pieces of wood that are starting to rot. Like there's all this crap. Like apparently when they were building it, you know how you put like the plastic over the wood so that when the rain hits it, like it doesn't dry out,
Yeah.
waterlog the
The
wood. But apparently
construction stuff.
they
Yeah.
didn't,
That
and
sounds like New
basically
York.
they ended up coming back and having it he had his own inspector. He paid his own inspector to come do it. And the guy's like this house is unlivable.
Right.
Like I don't know what it's going to cost to fix. You're in the hole like over $300 and some $1,000 so far to build this house. Like, so he's going after the Babylon Village because their inspector like signed off on everything, said it was fine, everything's
Oh
great.
no, that's a big no. Yeah.
So this guy is like constantly sending TikToks, like he's recording every town meeting, every time like somebody gives him a hard time. It's like it's a big legal case right now, and he just catalogs every freaking day what's going on.
That's what you have to do, though. That's what you have to do.
Because people will screw you.
Absolutely.
You know, as soon as they can, just to get out of like being held responsible for stuff. It's a sad world.
Yeah, money's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't know. You know, I will say I've done a lot of really bad things in my life. At least I would consider them bad. But one of the things I've never done is like ream somebody for a couple of dollars or money in general. If it's something that I had to pay, I had to pay. You know, it is what it is. Or I couldn't pay and I took it the way on the chin. I hate to use that terminology, but you know, I've never been one, you know, and I'm a big believer, and this is a quote from you now: business is business and friends is friends. And in a business environment, absolutely, I will take another business over the coals. I have no problem doing that. Business is different. It's not a human being. It's entities. They can be ruthless. But to the people, to friends and family, like I've loaned a couple friends a couple $100 here and there. And they're like, hey man, you know, I can't pay you back and pay you. So I'm like, you know what, man, don't even worry about it. It's $300. Who cares? I'm not gonna put you under stress for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's very nice of you.
Well, all of them have paid me back. You know what I mean? At least that I can remember. So if you haven't, fuck you, but also not a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. That
at least if you're in like relationships where like one hand washes the other, and you guys have like kind of like helped each other out back and forth, and it makes more sense. But you also don't want to be the guy who's always like handing out the benefits to everybody and and it only goes one direction.
Well, my real life buddy Zach, you know, him and I, we ride together. He's my riding buddy, and him and I go to Fuzzy's, his taco shop, and they have these like funny margaritas. We got one called the Blue Ball Rita. It's like blueberry lime margarita with a blue Red Bull and like a shot of tequila on top. It's a great drink, right? Two of those will put you like, you probably shouldn't drive anything, not even a golf cart, for two of those.
Right.
But we always pay each other's meals. So like I'll buy the first one, then he buys the next one, vice versa. And you know, and then like, you know, him and I have, you know, he's smoked my vapes or whatever, substances, whatever. And I don't mean substance illegal, just anything. Right. And he's like, you want me to get you back for that? No, man, you're good. Well, when I needed help moving, that man put in 12 hours after a full day and helped me move, you know, return the favor. So
yeah, my buddy Suvit is like that. He's one of my neighbors. He's another physician. He's like, you know, anytime I need him, he's there. You know, we do the same thing with bills. Like we're always paying each other's bills, but it's like it goes back and forth, and it's you know, what, not retaliatory, but what do you call that when
recursive?
Yeah, I don't know. But basically, you know, it's you do it one time, they do it one time, and it's just the way you live your life with that person, and whenever you need help, I mean, they're always there.
Yeah. I know Zach would loan me money, vice versa. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, he's that's just what it is. You know, trust the guy with my heart. So my life. Sorry, I have this is Circus de Soleil cat today. They're a little triggered because they had the people come in to do the construction, and if you don't have cats, they do not like random stuff being very loud in their environments, and so they're a little stressed out. Look how stressed out this one is. Clearly,
yeah.
But, you know,
almost unconscious.
I know.
So stressed out,
sweetheart.
So what about Tarkov? So what are you thinking?
Tarkov. Okay, so
speaking of vices.
Yeah, speaking of vices, Tarkov is I didn't play last wipe. I usually take a wipe off. Usually I do about 2 wipes on and a wipe off for every other wipe. That sounds really wrong out of context. And the new ones, this wipe has been fantastic. Obviously, in the beginning, there's always a bit of a cheating issue, and there's bugs and things like that. And whatever. I'm a software engineer and I'm building a game and things. I know that this is. I understand BSG. I feel for you. Even though they didn't accept my job to pay me in rubles M995, and that's okay.
I saw that tweet.
But they did a lot of balancing. A lot of these really elite ammos that like instant taps you to level 4, 5 Alton right through your helmet. You can't even buy anymore. You have to craft them, and you can only craft so many in 16 hours. And like they've done a lot of balancing. So like a lot of the beginning grade stuff, M855 and PS ammo and stuff like that, all are very valid right now in the wipe. And it's fantastic. It's the best Tarkov's ever been, in my opinion. Of course, there's some issues. Streets is not very performant, but these are all slight prices to pay for a game that I paid. I think I spent what was it, 140 for the big one?
What is it?
The Edge of Darkness edition. Or whatever.
Streets of Rage, but no, the Edge of Darkness.
Edge of Darkness.
Yeah,
but I mean, I bought that 3 years ago, whenever it first came out, and I have gotten unlimited content out of it. So Tarkov's great. And again, for some of my vet friends, Tarkov has the most realistic firefights. The mechanics, the way the fire, because people do not want to die, and when you get shot, you can't. It's not like Call of Duty where your screen just turns red. Like you have injuries, you could bleed out, all sorts of stuff, and so people cower, they hide, everything you would do in real life if you're getting shot at. Obviously, people are more ballsy because it's not their actual life, but it's their gear, and so that game has got great. That's got a great adrenaline. I love Tarkov for the adrenaline.
And the thing I appreciated much, you touched upon this. The thing I really appreciate about Tarkov is there's a lot of nuance in the game that is very important, and this is the tweaking that you were talking about with as far as like the kind of ammo and whether or not it's fair to be able to get one tap so easy. But the point is like you come up with these ideas, and this probably rings true to the game you're making. I mean, it's cool. It's a bullet. It hurts people, and that's great. But I mean, there's so much dialing of just individual attributes of things, just to make the feel right and to make the fairness right. And it's great that you were saying like when you get hurt, it's not your body, but they've transitioned that into something different. Like they've transitioned it to like loot anxiety, right? So that's. So
dying
you're not
sucks in that game.
You're never going to get the anxiety of being hurt unless you wear one of those. They have those vests out now.
Haptic suits or whatever.
Yeah. But even then, it just like vibrates you. But the point is, I always wanted to get one of those. But the point is that how do you instill the fear of battle? And you're not going to do it by physicality, but you're going to do it by like, oh my God, I just brought in this whatever level armor, and I'm going to lose it. Yeah. And you're literally running for your life because you just don't want somebody to take your crap that you work so hard for. That's ingenious, and it's a small thing, but it's important.
Well, I mean, it leads ways for other things. So like, one of the biggest issues I hate Army vets or Marine vets, especially Marines, talking about shit about you guys. They're always like, I'm going to use these tactics I've learned in my training. I'm going to use it in a video game. It never works because people don't have the same fear that a lot of these tactics rely on. One I preach the most in competitive games is different. Competitive shooters, people don't want to die because you're playing a competitive tournament, right? It's the same aspect. There has to be a fear of loss. But like violence of action, you got two guys behind, each guy's behind a box. He gets up and shoot, and you get up and shoot, and you go back and forth. Well, eventually somebody's got to move. So violence action in a very simple form is like he gets up, you get up, he gets up, you get up, and you shoot to keep him down. And he doesn't realize you're getting closer before he has a chance to realize you're up in his business. You've got to actually surprise, you're being aggressive, And a lot of games doesn't work because people just get him look anyways. But in Tarkov, why are you going to peek in the same corner if some dude's, bouncing rounds off? You can hear the ricochets, your screen shaking, you're going to get cowered while he's moving up. Also, he's swinging around right, and he's just shoots you in the ribs, and that's it. It's like those things work in Tarkov, and that's what makes that game great.
Even just bullets whizzing by your head creates a slight amount of darkness in your visual field. It just like it gets dim on that side, and it's unnerving.
It's really, I don't know. I mean, the dimness, I think they're trying to replicate the adrenaline spike, because for those who've never been shot at, when you get shot at, you can, if it's close enough, you can feel it, but the snap, how loud the snap is, as it breaks air past your head. It's like, or your body or whatever. It's such an eye-opening experience. And so in the video game, having them kind of dim your vision, it's like this immense adrenaline because the body is like, and
Right.
I'm assuming that's what that is,
It is. I mean,
Uh,
it's like how do I make somebody, because the audio in the game, you know, is to be desired, but again, that's in work in progress. But I
right.
mean, how many games do you play where you get shot at and you're like, yeah, I'm getting shot at, right? But
No,
you don't know the true proximity of getting shot at. But
right,
when your vision is changing next to it, like
right.
like
The crack.
I'm gonna die. Like
Yeah.
this is not a good situation. So that's these little
They
things are just so interesting that they do.
Well, they took the time to nail bullet audio
Mm.
relatively, and there's some things, but depending on how close a bullet is to you, if it's at you or around you, they make different sounds: snap, pop, whiz, zing, and you can defer kind of you're being shot at. Well, that crack that you hear, that crack right as it goes past you, that means you're being shot at. And in most scenarios in real life, if it's cloud and you hear that and you feel it, it means it's at you specifically. You know what I mean? In your general
Right.
direction. Tarkov nails at it. It puts some fear in you. So the other thing that Tarkov does well is the healing. I love the healing mechanics. You get your fucking arm blown off. You don't just like, tap a bandage on it, walk away. Like you got to just cut your arm open, pull the bullet out, staple it shut, and take pain
Right.
meds. And then, the other thing that I think Tarkov does that people, I think freaks them out is that human beings can be shot a lot. I think people are surprised by the fact that somebody could take 15 rounds of 9mm to their upper torso and live. Not right away, they will die eventually, but in them they don't just shut off. There's like, oh, your HP is 0, that's it.
Right.
Humans, the body's different, and Tarkov does that as well. So
Yeah.
you know
And of course, the slow amount of handicapping that you get for each additional round that you take.
Yeah.
Like you slow down, or your vision starts getting blurry, it starts getting black and white. Just all these
You're
little
bleeding
things.
out. You're like gasping for air.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst. That's the worst. And you get shot in the stomach or something. You're like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's like the dinner bell for everybody on the map. Just like hears you coming around. You sound like the ice cream truck. You're just like.
I get so aggressive when I know guys are dying. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
coming on you now. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But yeah, Tarkov's great. If you never played Tarkov, if you never played Tarkov, I recommend it.
I do too.
But just be ready to. I like to say it's what I imagine BDSM is like for people who are into that. You don't know why it hurts, it sucks, this is degrading, but somehow, and I'm not kink shaming, but somehow you come back for more because it just tickles that
Right.
thing you need. That's Tarkov.
Right.
You will
It-
hate that game. And
It's just
continue
like,
to play it.
yeah, it's like, there's the prospect. See, when you're doing really, really good and you're having a really good run, it's like, it is huge. It's all
Yeah.
the adrenaline. You're chasing the
Yeah.
adrenaline. And it's just
Yeah.
like, this is fun. You're with your friends. You're like dominating. People aren't taking you by surprise. And then the next map, it can be a 180. And
Yep.
like, you're just dead
Yeah.
fast.
Days in a row
Relentless.
sometimes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's tough.
Tarkov loaneth. I used to say Tarkov giveth, Tarkov taketh. No,
Take it away.
Tarkov loaneth temporarily
Yeah.
that happiness, and then they fucking you got to pay it
Right.
back in interest.
Yeah, so it really all depends on what you're into. If you're into stuff where you want some realism and you want to feel the emotions, then it's a good game for that. But the other problem with Tarkov, and this is an older gamer problem, is time. It's not good. It's like it's a game of leveling yourself up, unlocking different you have a base where you can basically, if you
That's
collect
kinda
enough
changed,
stuff, you
though,
can
now.
unlock stuff. Yeah, but still, it's like if you don't have
Right.
time, like if you're not like Glenn, who basically like shuts
I know.
Discord off for like a month and
It's like
literally
level
just
40.
I know, and he
I'm
just
like
like
16.
yeah, he just cranks it out. He just grinds it. And then like, you come home from work, you're like, let me play some Tarkov. I'm level 3. I'm
Yeah.
level 5,
I know.
I don't have access to the marketplace yet. It's like
Yeah.
shit like that.
It does make it. It does. But I will say, guys, no more than the gun you're using and the weapon you have. It's the knowledge. Now I know knowledge comes from playing the game, and that's kind of the crutch there. But
Right.
I have killed so many people in Tarkov because I knew the scenario, the situation. I read the map better, whatever, and that's how I came out. And I've been killed by guys who just outplayed me significantly, who had crappier guns. So just be open minded and have a
Yeah.
good time. It's a fun game. I recommend it. BSG is a good company. They get a lot of hate, but I can't think of a game company today that gives you this much consistent content and change every wipe for the same price you paid 3 years ago. Like you don't hear it. That's unheard of in today's
This
climate,
is the way that beta testing should be. And obviously not everybody's going to do it this perfectly, but I mean, the main focus of the patches appear to be fine tuning and gameplay and some performance enhancements versus so many other games that are like adding skins, adding maps, adding more, stuff that you can buy to just kind of further development. I mean, they're just selling copies of their game. And
shirts, you can buy some, gear if you want, but who cares?
Right.
And I'm not talking in game, I'm talking real life. You can buy a USEC mug or whatever. They make great Christmas gifts, but yeah, Tarkov is off the sales of their game for the most part, and they continue to give you whole new experiences.
Right.
So that's worth the money itself right there.
They don't make anything else, do they?
No. So Tarkov actually used to be another company. They made a web game called the PMC Wars, and then you can actually see some of the assets in Tarkov that were revitalized from that web browser game. Yeah, and then they made Tarkov, and so no, they don't think they do anything else. They're going to make Arena, which will be an different game. Arena will be a separate game, which I'm excited for because they'll have some integrations into Tarkov, like your gear and your character and stuff like that. But but I can't imagine. I mean, the EOD edition is $140 or $130 or whatever, and you think that most of the players are playing with that, or more than half are playing with that version. You're talking 1 million copies of that. That's a lot of money. So
it's a lot of money.
And I hate this. They're Russian, but they're the good kind. So, and most Russians are, to be honest. Let's be honest. Those guys aren't choosing that conflict.
Right.
But yeah, Tarkov, great. Everybody's addicted to it. Everybody's playing it. I'm trying to get Dak to play, but he's like, no, I just want to play Monster Hunter. And I'm,
You've been playing that with him too, right?
I have. I like the game, but I love you, Dak, but a couple hours of it, and then that's it for me. I mean, I enjoy the rush of like fighting the hard monsters, and honestly, I was weirdly good at it, which is also kind of feels good because I'm usually not good at those kind of games. But it's a good game. I'm not a Asian game connoisseur. I don't play those kind of. They're not my cup of tea, and this game is very Asian.
I know.
And it's fun in the moment, and like I do it because Dak is like a little brother to me, and I would say I say 50% of the reason I play is because he loves it, and I like playing with him. But the other half is I like the fighting, and it's fun, and it's cool to swing a big sword around and gut monsters. But it's a good game. I recommend it for people.
I was talking to him about that. I was doing some emails, and I just hopped on Discord in case anybody was there. And Dak came on, and he was playing, and I'm like, "This is a very Asian game." And he was like, "Why? What do you mean?" I'm like, "I don't know. There's a little cartoon cat following you around. First of all,
your
you got armor on the cat. Your swords are bigger than you."
Yeah. Oh, it's super Asian. All the girls are wearing like different. Yeah, it's I mean, the game.
Moon.
Yeah, they're like it's Japanese. It's from Japan, and it's got a lot of their and they made that game for the Japanese people. And my dirty Westerner self doesn't enjoy it for all the things that I'm sure the Japanese people enjoy it for.
Right.
But it's a fun game. I recommend it. It's not that expensive. It's got a ton of content. There's a lot going on. But I didn't die until the very end boss or whatever. And Dak was like, I never got this far when I played. So that was kind of a high in itself. It's like, my dumb Westerner ability, apparently I did okay. Right. It's about keeping calm. Honestly, it's like Tarkov. Keep your cool and you'll do okay. So.
And you upgraded your PC, right?
I did. I got a new motherboard and, like an M.2 and stuff. I had an old MSI X299 SLI Plus board that I used for years. Before that, I had the 2011 V3 socket. So it's the dad of this one. But I went Asus, and I wanted a motherboard that could fit all the stuff I needed. Believe it or not, I had tapped out that MSI board's capabilities. It's the first time I've really tapped a motherboard out. But the Asus board, it's got so much. But
I love Asus boards. Yeah.
You pay for what you get, though, with Asus. That's for sure.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I mean?
love Asus boards. I've only bought Asus boards. I've had one catch on fire on me once, but
How
all
many
the
years
other
ago
ones
was
are
that?
good.
That had to been back in the day,
That was, geez,
like a leaky
that
cap or
was
something.
that. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a capacitor. It was
Yeah.
2000 and probably 3
Yeah.
or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, all of a sudden, like I was. Wait, when did I get out of my? Maybe 2000. Sorry.
Somebody get this man water. Jamie, can we get a water in here?
Sorry about that. Tickle in my throat. It was about 2005. I had moved from Pennsylvania back to New Jersey, or into New Jersey, and I had a couple more days to finish off at the end of my residency, and we moved. We took everything and moved. I was actually just staying over a friend's house to finish like my last week out there, and literally, I get a call. The computer room is all smoke. I'm like, oh no, what's going on? I'm like, is it the computer? She's like, yeah, I think it's the computer. I'm like, unplug the computer. And then she like looked inside. I had an old Lion Light case with a window in it. She's like, oh, there's
Yeah.
this one big burnt part on the motherboard. She sent me a photo. It wasn't near anything that was plugged into it. A capacitor must have blew, but that was the gap in building PCs for many years, because my ex-wife was like, I want a computer with a warranty, and I want to make sure that this doesn't happen. So we're buying a
Yeah.
Dell. So I bought a Dell XPS. But
Those
like
are
when
good computers, though.
they had remember they were huge metal.
Yeah, but
big.
They were good computers. Dell made good computers back then.
Yeah, they were good for what it's worth. But I mean, right now I'm back to building my own, and I'm much happier to be able to get what I want out of it specifically.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I had a couple Dells back in the day that I shoved graphic cards into because they were cheap.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, it's about bedtime, so I need to do that, because if I wait another 30 minutes, I'll be a mess tomorrow morning. It's weird. The medication works like that.
Is it really?
It's quetiapine, so it's like, you know what that is. It's like the medication for dementia patients.
Yeah.
However, if you don't have dementia, you sleep very hard. And I don't take it all the time, but with everything that's been going on recently, I've been taking it, because there was a while there where I was only getting 4 hours sleep a night. And after a couple of weeks, that really catches up to you. Your brain is like, bro, like you wake up and you feel like the day didn't stop from previous. Right. And that's when you know. But the quetiapine, or whatever you want to call it, it puts me in the ground for a good 10 hours. So I like to time it. So when I take it, I don't wake up and just be like an absolute worthless person at work for an hour. Because I've definitely been like, hey guys, I'm coming in late, because either I sleep in my bed or I sleep in my desk. Not my choice.
Then the older you get, the harder it is to deal with that.
I can't stand grogginess. It's probably my least favorite feeling. And you know what? There's a lot of feelings I don't like. Food poisoning, nausea, whatever. But grogginess is my least favorite. I just hate that you have no control over it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like you're walking in fog all day long. It's tough.
It's horrible. And people are like, oh, take a cold shower. I already take cold showers. And on top of that, sure, it wakes me up. I'm a computer guy now. So I sit down, my brain's like, oh, hey, you're not moving anymore? Here's all that sleepiness that you had an hour ago, you know? Yeah. So I hate it.
I ended up with the GI bug last week for just a couple of days.
Me too.
I was at work, and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. I was like this. Sweating. Just like sitting at the desk and just like, no, I was just like falling asleep. I was just like so exhausted.
Oh yeah.
I was just sitting there like, man, you know, you're usually much more talkative than this. I'm like, yeah,
I don't feel dead. Good today. Yeah, what do you, as a doctor, you can't go home. You just got to suffer through that.
No, you can't. You can't. I mean, you got to be like really, really sick to get out. I mean, you got to be sick. I mean, we'll wear masks on. We'll, you know, vigorously hand wash, you know, to take care of people, but you can't just cut out. There's not often a person ready to take your place.
It's so dangerous to be tired doing that line of work. You know, I can't imagine that, you know. I guess in the big picture, though, it's probably not nearly as painful if the doctor's not there, you know.
Right.
No offense to nurse practitioners.
Well, in a lot of places, I mean, most places you need, not everywhere, but with nurse practitioners, but with PAs and stuff, I mean, you need to have what they call a collaborating physician who is usually on site. I mean, I guess
Keeping them in check.
there's some hospitals out in the Midwest that are just like only staffed with like PAs and NPs and stuff,
We have those here.
but in our neck of the woods, I mean, you have to have a doc there. I mean, it's different hospitals, different rules depending on what they want, but
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
you got to be there.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
yeah, so it's
here's-
a lot of sickness right now.
Kind of a sideways question for you. Is there a lot of like amphetamine usage in the doctor world? Like, or
There-
stimulants?
There
Cocaine?
there is. I mean, it's talked about in like a lot of articles and stuff. I don't really know anybody who's done
Right.
that, but
It's such a
Uh,
tight elite group.
Yeah.
You know,
it is. I mean, I've seen a lot of substance use disorder in the medical field. I mean, amphetamines is you're talking about just like fatigue to be able to keep going, to keep on
like
going on.
Adderall or like I hate to say
Yeah.
cocaine, but cocaine is a good like awakening state. I know it doesn't last
Yeah.
very long, but it'll break you out of your
Yeah.
coma for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, some of the docs, have done that. I mean, I've seen a couple vets who are actually taking veterinarian medicines to either stay awake or for just substance use in general, or euphoria, or
Right.
at that point it becomes it
Self-medicating.
becomes a dependence. You
Yeah.
need to have that, or you're going to get really sick if you don't have it. But I haven't known anybody. We're all on like energy drinks or
Oh,
this.
love my
Have you ever had
caffeine.
Celsius? This is like new.
The
The
I know what
camera's
it
gonna
is.
Follow it. It's fantastic. It's literally it's like no calories. It's such a nice, refreshing change from drinking like soda or coffee or typical caffeinated crap. They'll probably write an article in 2 years saying it gives you cancer, but Monster.
I drink these rehabs. Now here's the deal. You look at Monster, it's just all sugar. It's actually not. So the rehabs are, I'll read this option out. It does have some things, all energy drinks have things that probably shouldn't consume in quantity. But it's only got 3 grams of sugar and it's only got 25 calories a whole can.
That's not much.
I limit to 2 of these a day. So 50 calories in liquid is nuts.
No, that's not bad.
However, we are rocking a sweet 160 milligrams of caffeine per can. So 320 milligrams a day of caffeine. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't do much for me anymore. I have to consume a gratuitous amount of it. And even now, then it becomes an anxiety and aggravated issue. You know what I mean? Caffeine is a crappy drug in itself.
It is.
But man, I can't function without it. I tried stopping and I was like taking naps at work and falling asleep at my desk and honoring headaches. And I was like, what the man, I quit harder drugs that didn't suck this bad.
That's weird because I don't feel that. Like when I do caffeine,
It takes a while.
I feel like I have to drink it because I'm used to drinking it, and I feel like if I don't drink it, then I'm going to be in trouble. But when I haven't drank it, I don't feel any more tired or awake.
How much
or
do you
anything,
drink a day?
But I get a freaking headache if I don't take it. I'll tell you that. Horrible.
That's one of the ways they diagnosed my ADHD was my caffeine consumption. He's like, how much caffeine do you drink? Well, I try to regulate to 2, but I can easily drink up to 500-600 milligrams of caffeine a day. And he's like, holy doctor, I had Dr. Brickle. He's an older gentleman. So I think that's a lot of caffeine in his world. But in the Gen X millennial world, that's not that much. But
It's only
he
a
was
lot
like,
if it's IV.
yeah. And so he was like, that's so much caffeine. He's like, that's horrible. And then, but now they give me amphetamines, which I hate taking those too. I hate those.
Yeah.
I try not to take those if I can help it.
That should
They
wake
don't
you
do
up.
anything
Though.
for. No, they don't.
No.
When I first got Adderall, I was like, here we go. Cause I played with it a little bit in my younger years. And back then I was like, this is so horrible. Just sucks. Doesn't do anything. My friends were like, I've been up for 17 hours. I'm like, what? Anyways, I got prescribed it. I took the extended release and I took a nap. And I remember being like, was this supposed to keep me awake? And the doctor's like, that's how we know it's good for you. Or that's not good for you, but that's how we know that you're somebody who should take it because you're not feeling wired on it. I'm like, yeah, this didn't do anything. So I'm taking it, what type of stimulant is this? They just give you more, which is scary.
Right. Increase the dose.
Which is like, come on, there's gotta be a better solution. But yeah, no, I asked that because I can't imagine 14-hour shifts. I mean, we did anything to stay awake when we had like guard duty or whatever, pinch each other, rub coffee in your eyes, whatever.
I remember when right now we do 10s. but there is a you get used to it, right? So if you're gonna start working like overnight, so the ER is tough because like tomorrow, for example, I'm working 12 to 10. The
Okay.
day after that, I'm working 12 to 10. The day after that, I'm working 7 to 5.
Okay.
So I'll get home at 10. I'll get about at 11. I got to get up at like 6 o'clock the next morning, go back in. Like yesterday, I worked 9 at night till 7 in the morning. So, that messes with your sleep wake cycle all the time. And when you're first doing that, like that's like until your body is somewhat more habituated to that, it is really, really difficult.
Can't imagine.
And I
Yeah.
remember when my residency, I would get a plastic tray and I would just put Mountain Dews on it, just like 4 Mountain Dew bottles, like, right. And I just like go in for my night shift.
You're asking for gout.
I drank so much Mountain Dew that I actually used to go into arrhythmias from all the stimulant. So I would actually put EKG leads on me and a portable monitor, and I'd put it in my pocket, and there'd be all the patients like on the main screen with all their heart rates, and
Yeah.
I'd be the last one in the corner, and I'd be like running around seeing how many times I was going into like weird ventricular, extra ectopy.
When are illegal stimulants not that bad? I mean,
Right,
holy
right.
moly.
Well, anything in mass is bad. I mean, for overdoses, right?
Right.
What's one of the worst overdoses? Tylenol. Like,
Oh yeah.
like
It's the last
liver
headache going around.
disease, transplant, like kills you.
That's horrible.
Motrin, Motrin, it could wipe out your kidneys, give you an ulcer. I mean, so like everything, just because it's not prescription doesn't mean it's not good for you. I mean, anything in like anything in significant amounts is just horrific. So
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been arrhythmia. Not that I can think. Maybe in my younger years, because I used to drink NOS, like chugging
Yeah.
water. And NOS energy drinks are not for the faint of heart. I gave one to a buddy of mine who drank Red Bulls. Pretty much, he had 2 Red Bulls a day. I gave him one of my NOS, and he was like, "I have to go home." I'm like, "Really?"
what is he
He's like-
feeling? Just like headache,
Yeah,
jittery?
he's like headache. He's like, "I'm super anxious. I can't get out of the bathroom." I'm like, "Bro, you drink a lot of Red Bull." He's like, "This is not a Red Bull."
Yeah.
And the problem is I gave him one of those tall cans, and I was assuming that he would drink it throughout the day, and he slammed it in about
He
2
just slammed
hours,
it.
like
Oh.
I do. And I was like, "Dude, we different tolerance to, same with like nicotine." I remember the first time I chewed, oh my god, it
Oh.
was like bliss, nicotine bliss for the whole day. It's just like now it's like there was a point where I could chew all day nonstop, and it just like didn't do anything. And
I
honestly, I
remember I
think nicotine's the
Oh, go ahead.
worst. No, I was just saying it's the worst. Nicotine's the
I
worst.
took a big hit once of Skull, and
dip?
yeah, and it was
Was it
like
a pouch or like loose leaf?
no, it was
like
loose
the-
leaf. It was like it was fine
Skulls.
ground. Was
Skull's
fine
some nasty
ground.
shit.
Yeah. So I used to I'm just gonna hear funny.
Gotta get out.
I used to chew tobacco in 7th and 8th grade, right? We used to
That's
do
about when I
Red Man
started.
Plug, Applejack, Beach
Red
Nut,
Man,
like
oof.
all that stuff,
That's-
right?
Red
That's-
Man's big man chew.
Yeah, whatever we can get. And
That's
they
some
used to
strong
like
stuff.
just sell it to us. No one questioned us. They just give us packs of tobacco.
What a
But-
time.
We used to use a little bit at a time, and it was fine. So it had been many, many years. I had to be maybe in early college or late high school. Friend comes up to me. He has this cherry skull, which I've never seen before. Usually skulls are
It's
like in
disgusting. The worst. It's
a pine
disgusting.
green thing, and this was in a red thing. And he gave it to me. It's like it's cherry, and I took it. And all I can tell you is that I went through the stages of intoxication in like 30 minutes, like
That sounds
everything.
like- yeah.
And it was like I felt some buzz. I was really, really happy. I was
Nauseous.
tired. I didn't feel good. Puke my ass off. Had to
Yeah.
go home. And
Yeah.
that was like within like 30 to 45 minutes. It
Yeah.
was like that should be a whole day of drinking,
Yeah.
and it was like compacted into this
That's
little.
the thing.
It was
too
horrible.
much. Yeah,
It was
I chewed-
horrible.
I chewed, I guess I would say 9th grade is probably when I started chewing, and it was whatever I get my hands on. So at the time it
Right.
was like, like a Skull Wintergreen or whatever
Mhm.
Skull's mint. I hated it. And then when I was old enough to buy, so 18 back then, because it's 21 here in Colorado now,
Right.
Cope Long Cut, Copenhagen Long Cut, no flavors, no nothing. Just they call it cowboy tobacco, cowboy chew, because it just tastes like shit. It's a horrible chewing tobacco. You're like, oh, what's in it? It's just tobacco leaves, some butter and salt, but like it just tastes like cow shit. I don't know why, but like, yeah,
you
I
bought
mean, and at one point I would chew through 5 to 6 cans a week.
Oh,
That's a lot
wow.
of
A
tobacco.
week?
A week, yeah. So they
Ugh.
just call them a log. It's 5 cans, so probably about a log a
Ugh.
week. Yeah, nonstop. I'd wake up, put a chew in, and I would chew in, go take my first chew shit. You know, replace it, another chew, another chew, another chew, another chew, another
Get your
chew.
cup.
Yeah, yeah, just whatever. Once I would spit it out, eventually it'd be gone, and just put another one in. They got that bad in the
Oh.
army. The reason it was so great in the army is because we could do something. Like smokers had to go to smoking area. They couldn't smoke in the Humvees or the the MRAPs. They couldn't do any of that kind of stuff. But chewing, nobody can say nothing to you because it's
Right.
you know. The couple times where somebody who cared, we just swallow it, which is
Ooh.
stomach ulcer questions. You
Yeah.
know? So no wonder I have heartburn today. But yeah, I was pretty careful the first time I chewed tobacco. I didn't take a huge amount, but I definitely went through the stages where I was like, afterwards, I was like, that wasn't great, but I kept
I know,
doing
right?
it. I kept doing it. I've never thrown up from chewing tobacco. I got close. My buddy had like this Jack Daniels Copenhagen, and it was awful. It was awful. I'm like, dude, just go buy some normal Cope and just soak it in Jack. That would have been 100 times better. I can't do the wintergreens. My buddy had blueberry skull. I was like, this doesn't taste like this. Is like blueberry and cat shit with some litter mixed in. Like, what is this?
I didn't even know
So
they made blueberry.
Red Man was probably the hardest one for me because it came in a pouch.
Right. Yep.
It's a big leaf, and you bite it. And the guy that his name was Randy, he's called Big Randy. He was like 6'7" or 6'8", huge dude. He used to chew, just had a little white styrofoam cup, Red Man. And I was like, I'll try it, Randy. I could chew Cope all day again. It didn't make me like vomit, but man, I was like, how do you just rip this off? Like just big old,
Disgusting.
I don't know. Yeah. Red Man that's a big man. You know, it's funny because you're like, I was in 7th, 8th grade doing it, but in my generation, Red Man, that's a big man. That's a grown man's chewing tobacco for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
don't do it. Don't do nicotine. It's the hardest drug. I have quit every drug you can think of outside of like methamphetamine and heroin, nothing like that. Nothing crazy. But I mean, cocaine, pain medicines, I mean, normal medicines from doctors that I just didn't like, cold turkeyed them.
Yeah.
And nicotine was the hardest by far.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I can't get rid of it.
And it's funny. It's just because it's such a cash cow. That's why, no one's ever going to get rid of it.
It's the worst.
It creates so many problems for people. It's so shitty to get people diagnosed with lung cancer. And there's just so much, it has such a grip on people. And yet
it
we keep
depresses.
selling
I don't
and,
know.
and they just keep taxing the shit out of it. And you know what? Everybody keeps paying it. It's like $10 a pack. I'll pay that. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Doesn't
'cause
matter.
You get so used to it. And oftentimes I think it's like an oral fixation or an anxiety management more than the nicotine, you know?
Right.
Usually my first vape of the day, I'll get a little bit of a buzz from it. But, God, if I could never go back and never do anything, nicotine would be, I'm grateful I never smoked cigarettes. I will say that. But chewing tobacco is not much better, if better
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So
I do smoke a
but-
cigar now and then, though.
I do love me a cigar. Cigars will also put you through all of those stages very quickly if you've never smoked a cigar before, because cigars are potent. And
Right.
I dated this girl named Alexis, and they're from Texas, and her dad was
Alexis from Texas.
I know.
All right.
I'm not the ones that they're not the one I wish, right? But her dad was this big old heavy set burly Texas dude, just deep old voice, and he used to smoke cigars on the patio, in his back patio in his house. He goes, I'll tell you what, you can date my daughter, but I want your soul. And he'd point this big old like Texas finger at me. I don't know. He used to stereotype through and through. But he wanted
Jesus.
after dating his daughter for a month or two, he wanted me to smoke a cigar with him. And I was like, sure. He's like, it's gonna put you on your ass. I was like, oh no, man, I chew tobacco. I'll be all right. No, that cigar screwed me up. Royally screwed me up.
He probably enjoyed every minute of watching you squirm too.
Oh, I didn't get sick, but man, I was loopy. I couldn't walk. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't chewing enough to compete with the cigar that man had. As a
Yeah.
connoisseur, he probably gave me something super strong and dark at the time, and I just
Yeah.
I was too
Robusto.
naive. Yeah, it was. I
Yeah,
smoked the whole thing too, long one, the whole thing down.
It's like your forearm.
I did. I did too. I was so dumb. Oh my god, I was so dumb. That's the only time I think that man let me spend the night, because he knows I was
Really?
too stupid to do anything.
Hey, you were
You
in
know.
Texas at the time?
No, they had lived here. They had moved
Oh,
here.
okay.
They were just from Texas. Yeah,
Got it,
pageant
got it,
queens.
got
Her and her mother, pageant queens. That kind of stereotype.
Yeah.
You know, I had it for that girl so bad. If you're listening, Alexis, fuck you for the pain you put me through in my younger years. Anyways,
We're gonna lose one subscriber.
I know, right?
Boink.
Anyways, cigars are
All
great,
right, man.
though.
It's
But-
about an hour and 5.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
we should
guys. I know
probably cut it.
these have been a little crazy, a little random. We've been trying to be a little less. You know, we had a lot of requests from friends and family and just viewers that said, "Hey, just do random, be natural, be open." So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying. So let us know if
Absolutely.
you're liking it.
So this is season 2. This is our
Right.
first. We did 10 episodes last year. Couldn't believe it was 10, and we'll try to do 10 this year. But
Yeah.
it's good to get this done, and it feels good to get back into the run of things. And hopefully 2023 will
God, I hope.
do a little better for us than it's been over the last week and a half. So
I think there'll be some big changes this year. So we'll see how that rolls out. But we'll be here nonetheless.
all right, man. Good
See you
talking to you.
guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.